Hello, everyone. This is Ricky Baez from Baez Co-Learning and co-host of the HR Talk podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since I put out some kind of a video, some kind of a webinar talking about what's happening in the world today. As you know, the world is getting a little bit crazier and crazier and crazier by the day. That's why I have my very, very good friend. Speaking of crazy, right? I got my very good friend, Wendy, the HR lady Sellers, here with me today. Wendy, how are you?
I am good. Good. Ready to rock and roll and continue to socially distance.
I've been a social distancing expert for the longest time, even before this happened, right? Sometimes I like people, sometimes I don't like people. Are you getting tired of it?
You know, I get a little antsy. So I feel bad for anyone who's a true extrovert, because they must be going crazy that they're not around people all the time. And then I talk to people who are introverts and like, this is freaking awesome. I'm in the middle, I'm an ambivert, a little bit leaning towards the extrovert time, but I can, just doing this satisfies my need.
Okay. All right.
I just need some human interaction and the face-to-face, but if you're physically in front of me right now, I'm kind of like, hey, keep your cooties to yourself.
Yeah, all you got to do is cross your fingers. Isn't that the big thing growing up?
Oh, sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm cured. We're good. That's the way some people think is cure things today. You know what though? But I got to tell you, we are 3-4 months into the shutdown, into the
4.
4. Is it really?
Well, it started depending on where you're at. You and I are in Florida. But, it really started down here around April, but it started elsewhere in the beginning of March.
And I'm not only tired of the social distancing aspect, I'm just tired of hearing COVID. Everything is COVID. Every webinar that I jump on, every webinar that I hear, everything is COVID. And here I am saying it left and right. I promise from this point on forward, we're not going to say COVID at all.
I can't promise that.
Well, got you. Okay, don't promise that then. I'm going to try to promise that. But one thing we do have to talk about, Wendy, is not necessarily that C word. I don't know if I want to call it a C word. That word.
Word.
Don't do that. That word. But there is some after effects that we have to deal with from an HR perspective and from a business perspective. Because it's and it's funny because a lot of people are waiting for the normals, the things to come back to normal. And I keep telling people, I don't know what your definition of normal is, but this is it. And if you want things to go back to how they were a year ago, it's not going to happen. So the best thing you can do is just adapt to the change, right?
Right. It's like anything else. We can never go backwards, right? Mm-hmm. We get new technology and therefore we can't go backwards. We're in a war and then we can't go backwards. So your normal is today and tomorrow is probably going to be different.
Yeah, well, right. And then tomorrow you can't expect things to be like yesterday. So you just have to progress and adapt to that change in order to survive, like Darwin said. But you know what, though, Wendy, it's one thing that I'm noticing. I don't know if you have noticed it. It's just a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to performance expectations from a boss to an employee. Because as you know, look, I don't have any data to back this up, but I would assume most of the country is now telecommuting, where most of the country was not doing that 6 months ago. So that whole that workplace dynamic really shifted. And I don't know if a lot of leaders and employees alike, I don't know if their mentality shifted along with the work environment. Are you seeing that?
Oh, yeah. And I can tell you, most of the leaders' mentality did not shift. They were not prepared for this. They should have been prepared for this because that was the way the world was headed. And, many organizations were dragging their feet of letting people work from home and, be a little more flexible with their schedule just for regular life, not to mention, the pandemic that we're in right now. So leaders were not prepared. And if you're an old school leader, and I'm not talking about age, I'm talking about mentality, where people aren't productive unless I'm looking at them, well, then you have no clue what to do right now. It's like, and even then, like, and I just laugh when I hear that, like, I need to see them. So you need to see them sitting at their desk while they're playing on social media, doing absolutely nothing, but you feel better. Where at home, they're probably not playing on social media. they're probably more productive because they don't have all this chaos going on. Not everybody, you know, it depends on the role. And then on top of that, there are many people who can multitask like no problem.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
because they're on social media and this, and I mean, I'm one of those people. I have, you know, literally on my computer 9 tabs open at any time. And
Really?
I, yes, because
Wow.
I could be, now there are certain things that I have to be completely in a zone
Hmm.
and not interrupt it. And it's just because it's not, it's out of my comfort zone,
Okay.
you know? And so I have to be like, okay, I need peace and I need quiet. And those things I usually am doing at 6 a.m. when I'm still in my pajamas and the phone's not ringing yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I wake up early for that very same reason. Those 2 hours from 5 to 7, it really is a Zen moment for me because I get to do all those things that I want to, and my family's not up, my phone's not blowing off the hook because my phone blows up the hook until late at night because I got clients in California. But yeah, I definitely get that. So what is that shift? What's that shift that leaders that what is the mentality that leaders need to have now that's different than what that was 6 months ago?
You know, I think a lot of it has to do with adding empathy into the
Hmm.
workplace. Some people aren't capable of that. Let's just face it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the HR lady and be like, oh, yeah, let's just teach leaders empathy. You know, some people just, they don't give a shit. And that's all there
Yeah.
is to it. And, or they're just not capable of it because of whatever the reason is. I think everybody is capable of learning how to be empathetic if they want to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to want to be. If you're not, if you don't, and so like when I talk to leaders, supervisors, managers who want to be leaders, I'm like, all right, what's your end game? So let's figure out how we can help satisfy their end game, whether it's promotion, more money, you know, more revenue. Okay, if you sprinkle this in over here called empathy, you will get that. Oh, okay, thank you for explaining it that way.
It's just amazing that they need an explanation like that, right?
I
It's
know.
that's the part that gets me. And you know, in the end, what I have seen, right? Because I've had a conversation with leaders that lack that kind of empathy, right? And they tell me, Ricky, but I have empathy. I ask how they're doing. I ask how their family's doing, and I'm like, okay, number one, you got to be genuine. Number
Yep.
two, number two, that's not what I'm really talking about. Here's
Right.
what I'm talking about, right? So now you have a specific performance expectations of your employees that they have to meet X quota by X time in X way. And you've created an environment at work to where that was efficient.
Right.
But now this employee that you expect them to hit ABC mark are now doing that in a completely different work environment. They're doing it from home. They don't have all the same tools at home. And not only that, if they have a family, now they got 5, 6, and 2-year-olds running around behind them. Their spouse is probably furloughed, so the spouse is at home. That adds a lot more stress to the associate. And then the manager is still hammering them over the head, perform, perform, perform. And then that gap widens.
Yeah.
So that's what I have seen. What kind of tips have you given your clients, your leaders, the people you have spoken to overcome that?
Well, first, for the ones that, you know, actually do have some empathy a little bit already, is give people a break. I mean, 2020 has got to be the year of giving people a break. And, you know, I think it was easier in March, April, and May, but now it's July, almost August. And I think, you know, businesses, rightfully so, because I'm a bottom line type of person, is like, I can't afford to give them a break anymore. And it's like, okay, well, if that's where you're at financially with the organization, then unfortunately you do need to consider layoffs. And
Yeah.
that's all there is to it, you know. But if you can't, if you've built your business so close to the bottom line that you don't have any wiggle room for 6 months, then you are part of the problem.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But let's face it, Ricky, I mean, I deal with a lot of small businesses. That's my focus, you know, moving forward, because I just love helping them. I love seeing them get the aha moment and then succeed, and their employees succeed. And, you know, it just, our country's built off a small business, but most small businesses have no wiggle room. They have
Mm.
no wiggle room. The owner themselves is usually living paycheck to paycheck. And so when something, like a international, worldwide pandemic comes along, I'm not saying that word,
Thank you.
they had no built-in room to wiggle. And so then the owner is taking a pay cut or no pay. And so it's kind of like this thing, and I know you deal with a lot of large companies, and I have too, and I still do, but I really like working with small companies. The same thing for the large companies. The large companies, you would think they have this whole plan and all this stuff, and there's this bank of money over here in case of emergency. Nah,
Nope.
nah, no, no,
Not there.
no.
And you know what? And it's sad. I know this is a learning opportunity for a lot of organizations. You're right. The backbone of America's economy is America's small businesses, and for them to live paycheck to paycheck, I'm sad for what they're going through, because look, hats off and respect for anybody who has an idea in their head. They put it on paper, they built it up, they got blood, sweat, and tears invested into this idea, and they make money off it. I respect the hell out of that. But this right here just completely swiped any dreams that they have. So you're going to have two camps. You're going to have the people who are going to crawl back into a corner and cry and just give up, and you got other people who still crawl back into a corner, cry, but the next day they dust themselves off and they pick back up, and
Right.
and that I definitely respect. Not to say the other one, it's a boohoo on you, but everybody's human.
Right.
But the name of the game here is adapting,
Yes.
flexibility. And that's that's the message I want to give these leaders. I want to give these leaders, please be flexible with your associates. Please be understanding. Please be empathetic into what they're going through, how stressed you are right now with you trying to keep the organization intact and your family intact, mind you. They have the same thing. So you as a leader have a responsibility, whatever pressure you're getting from above, that you stop it right there and don't let it filter out to your employees, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right here. So, over here.
Right
Suck
there
it
it
up.
is. Where
Suck it
is
up.
it? There it
Yeah,
is.
I'm like looking
Got
at
it.
myself in reverse.
Mhm.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Be a leader. People will follow. Because I can tell you, every single day since this pandemic has started, and I mean every single day, weekends included, I get at least one email, one message on social media, or a frantic phone call from some people I don't even know saying, "Get me out of this company. Help me out
Get
of
you
this company."
out.
Yes,
Oh,
because
wow.
the employees are like, I have a job, but this place sucks.
Wow.
Why? I was just on the phone with somebody yesterday, and it's how they're handling the pandemic. Very little communication, very little communication. So, what happens when you have very little communication? People make stuff up and the rumor mill spreads. And
Yeah.
now everybody's getting laid off, right? And that's not the case at all. The company just was like, oh, well, we've got a reserve and we're just not going to tell anybody. Get back to work. And so the good people go find a job, and the people that can't find a job stay there.
Yeah. Eh. You know what, Wendy? So I want to go back to something that you just said a minute ago. You said that people call you to say, "Hey, get me out of here," and I could just picture you just out to dinner with somebody. Your beeper goes off. You're like, "Oh my God, that's your bat signal." You got to go to your trunk and change into your black outfit with your night vision goggles on. When did you become the extraction Navy SEAL for employees who hate their job?
I think it's just because I'm raw and honest, and I'm like, I had a friend call me yesterday actually, and I said, all right, talk me through the situation. I've already been talking them through it, and we're going to get to this particular situation when we talk about feedback too. This person works for an international firm,
Mm.
one who has an HR division that does seminars and webinars and writings on how to treat people, and their employees hate it there, which is hilarious, and I can't say who it is at this
I
time,
get it.
but,
I get
you
it.
know, but, in that conversation, I try to figure out, is it the company or is it you? And I
Mm.
will tell those people, I'm sorry, it's you, or it's both. This job isn't right for you.
Mm.
And so I had this conversation yesterday. I'm like, no, this is definitely not you. However, there is one thing that I do need to tell you: in your communication style, you need to change it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that's why I think people call me, because I'm honest with them. where other, other people would be like, oh, I feel so bad for you. And I'm like, well, I don't feel bad for you if it's your fault. I feel bad for
Wow, Wendy.
I feel bad for the company,
I mean, because I'm like, look, I feel bad for you, but you got yourself into this mess, right? So you need to
Yeah.
pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get your ass out of there.
Yeah. And then some cases I'm also like, listen, man, you need to suck it up and you need to do what you can, because for your particular job during this pandemic, there are no other jobs.
Yeah.
So you need
Yeah.
to suck it up and hang on until we get through 2020 or whenever this might end. And then, look for
Okay.
something else.
Let me ask you this. Now that you said that, right? There's a lot of I've actually seen this in social media in the past 2 months or so. And a lot of people were on social media, and some prominent people in government, high powered people, are saying this is a great opportunity for you to learn something new and come back reborn, right? That has gotten us, that really divided people. Because some people
Yeah.
are saying, you know what, that's a great idea. This is your opportunity. You're getting a reset button. Other people are saying, what are you talking about? I'm about to lose it here. I'm about to lose my house, my family. What do you say to that?
I'm divided as well. I don't think employers should expect that of employees. I really
Okay.
don't.
Mhm.
I absolutely don't. That's insane. Like, they're dealing with enough. I live by myself and I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
I mean, just the worry, the constant anxiety is what stresses me out. And I couldn't even imagine having to have children or elderly parents, or, and then never have worked virtually before and then
Mm.
having to adjust. I've been working virtually for quite some time, but it was an adjustment during, normal times. And I try, quote, air quote, the normal times. So I think employers who, give opportunities, say, hey, here are some opportunities for online learning. We're going to pay for it, whatever it is, that's fine. But to expect it, that's insane.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, if you are capable of emotionally and physically, financially, reinvesting in yourself during this, go for it,
Yeah.
because this is the time to do it. Um, I'm personally doing it as well, but it was already in the plan. So it just kind of it's happening. And got to tell you, if, if it wasn't happening, so I'm getting the official DISC certification. I've been
Mm.
teaching DISC for a decade, more than a decade, but I never officially got this certification. Well, you have to fly to Minneapolis to do this. And I was already booked. Like, you have to go there for 3 to 5 days. You have to. It's the
Wow.
only way you can get certified. Well, I was booked on a plane to go there during this pandemic. They shut it down, and for the first time ever, Wiley's doing, online training. So, but I have to tell you, if it wasn't already set up, I wouldn't have done it. There's no
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
So, and I'm, me, I'm a go-getter. I'm like, yeah, give me this, give me that, and I would have been like, yeah, this is gonna have to wait.
So I get that. So I'm divided too, right? Because I do have empathy for those folks that really can't do it. I'm not saying they can't mentally handle it, but they have a lot more stress on their mind than other
Right.
people, right? Not everybody measures stress the same. So I completely get how that could rub some people the wrong way. On the other hand, I'm thinking whoever is saying that, they're saying for the people who can do it, not for
Yeah.
everybody, right? So if you can do it, here's your time. Because I agree, you fell down, this thing knocked all of us in the teeth. Get up, dust yourself off, figure something else out, adapt, be
Yeah.
flexible with it. So that piece I get. I just don't understand the anger, right? The anger
Well,
at other people. That I'm not saying your anger. I mean, it's
yeah.
just I have seen that anger out there for people as saying, "How dare you say something like that?" Look, if you don't like it, don't do it. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that.
I think it's the delivery. It goes back to communication.
Ah,
There are some people, like, I'll give you an example, and it was about exercise. Like, in the beginning of this, I was just so stressed out. I mean, I was glued to the internet, to the
yeah.
TV, to everything. Like, I just needed to know information, so that, because I'm a helper. If I could learn the information, then I can help other people, and that's
Mhm.
how I handle stress. Let me figure it out. So just figuring out the, Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Well, there's 100 Q&A, and they keep coming out, and it's July. And so I remember somebody posted something on social media, is like, oh, this is great, everything's shut down, I'm working out, I've lost weight, and I want to like punch that person in the face. And I'm like, oh, so basically you're financially secure. You and your spouse both have jobs. You probably have, you know, a high income. Maybe your parents paid for your college education, you know, and other people here are laid off, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and losing their homes, can't eat, have sick kids, elderly parents, and you want them to work out. I was just like, ooh, I don't think so, lady, you know? Now,
Do that
couple
again. Ugh, I don't think so. Punch you in the face.
yeah. Now, months later, I was finally like, okay, I probably need to start working out. But it was, you know, it was the timing that it was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let's go do something. But I think that's where the anger comes from. And also remember that not everybody's emotionally intelligent
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go, hey, good for you that
On
you're in
both
this
sides.
life. Yeah. Yeah. But hey, good for you that you're in that situation, but I'm not. Can you give me some empathy?
Yeah.
And then there's other people that they don't even want empathy. They just want sympathy. They want the violin, you know,
Uh,
and I can't handle that. I am not a sympathetic
me,
person.
me neither. Me neither. This whole poor me thing, I have no patience for that. And to be honest, Wendy, that's something I do have to work on. Just being serious. I do got to work on, because I do have some family members like that, right? I do, where everything is poor me, poor me, poor me. Now at work, I do a good job at putting up a front, like, oh,
Yep.
okay, act concerned for a little bit, right?
Yep.
And then let's get back to work. But for some reason, I don't have the want to do that with my family, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I see that and I'm like, poor
You
you.
know
You know what?
why? You're
Well,
not getting paid for it.
that's a good point.
Yeah, you and I are cut from the same cloth, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely something that I need to work on too. But I try to put my empathy hat on, because
Yeah.
then I could like swallow that pill a little bit more. Like, okay, empathy is putting yourself in their shoes. So put yourself in their shoes, give them some tools to help them. And even with family members, here's some advice. Here, I'll do your resume for you. I'll connect you to
There
this
you go.
person. The rest is up to you. And if you still are going to be a crybaby, get out of my life.
Right? Go crash somewhere else. True. But you know what, Wendy? I personally think that all this, I think this should be a wake up call for large organizations as well, and for leaders who are not used to creating that work environment where there's trust, where there's that will or the comfort of having open and honest conversations with each other, even with things like diversity, because we got a 1-2 punch. We got this whole pandemic, and then we have an issue with police brutality, and that opened up some old wounds when it comes to racial injustice. But I personally think, I don't have any data to back this up, I personally think, because we're not supposed to talk religion, we're not supposed to talk politics, we're not supposed to be that that deep into diversity conversations at work, that it created this sensitive wall that as soon as you touch on that subject,
Yep.
people get emotionally raw, and next thing you know, people don't know how to talk to each other. Have you seen that?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, I'm one of the people that says that you do everything that you can to avoid talking about politics, religion, you know, in the workplace, because it's just gonna, you know, open a wound and
Mm-hmm.
cause drama. But I've changed my mind on that this year, you know,
Mm.
because of everything that's going on. I've changed my mind on the religion part a long time ago, you know, but. So I outsourced some of my business to a online training firm, and they've asked me to do religion in the workplace training, and then diversity, equity, and inclusion. And everybody's asking for it. Like my clients are asking for it out everywhere. Like, what do we do? And it's, you know, what I would say, if you have a huge, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion issue in your workplace, to get an expert that is, you know, that is what they do.
Yes.
And I'm not an expert on that. I know enough to probably keep small companies out of danger, you know, to say, okay, let's set up the policies, make sure your hiring and everything is, you know, not only diverse, but inclusive and equitable all the way through promotions and you know, unfortunately terminations too. But there are people that this is all they do, is specialize in that.
Yeah.
And that's what those individuals need to be hired for large firms that have never thought about it. Because if you've never thought about it, you know there is a problem in the workplace
Yeah.
for sure.
Didn't you just do a video on that? A video on
Yeah.
diversity, inclusion, and equity? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Just look up my name. But it's basically, based off of this training that this organization asked me to do, and I've really, this is one of the ones that I had to do at 6 a.m. because I had to really think about it because it's not my expertise. I just know it. And I was like, me, I need to learn about this, and before I go into that video, what I wanted to tell everybody as well is there is implicit bias tests for free on the Harvard website.
Ooh.
And so I will post it on LinkedIn today. I've already posted recently, and it's called Project Implicit. So you could probably just Google that, Project Implicit.
Okay.
And it's all these, implicit bias tests that you do. And when I was doing it, I literally have been hanging on to this for a while, and I was like, I don't want to do it because I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And then I'm like, I get asked to do this training, and I'm like, I better do this.
Yeah, you
and
better
so,
do it.
I did one of them on race, and I was not biased, at all. But even doing it shows pictures and stuff. I was like, oh my God, I'm so confused right now. Oh my God. Oh, and I'm, me, I'm a big, I got no room in my life for anybody who's a racist at all, or is not diverse, is not inclusive. So I was relieved to see that I passed that, but there's all these other ones that I still need to do. They take like 15, 20 minutes, and it's a free test. But people don't understand the difference between those three terms: diversity, inclusion, and equity. So diversity is when there's a presence of difference in whatever, setting you're in, whatever difference that is, skin color, age, whatever it might be. Inclusion, so you can have a diverse workplace, everybody looks different, but they're not included.
Yeah, true.
So inclusion has to do with, making sure that all those people that are different, whatever their differences, are now included. They feel valued. They are put to work. They're given the same, opportunity. So they're included in decision making, whatever that might be. And then we have this other term, equity. Oh, geez, all these terms. Well, equity is given everybody that's diverse, and now you've included them, or you make them feel valued, but are you giving them the same opportunities as everyone else? And we usually don't.
We usually don't, and I'm laughing at how scared you was about your subconscious bias. If it's subconscious, you're not really doing it on purpose. I mean, are you really at fault? Are you really are you really guilty though of being racist? Or not racist. Are you guilty of stereotyping and just being biased in general if it's subconscious to you?
So I say yes and no.
Okay.
So if you're intelligent enough to ask that question, yes. because if and I'm actually not kidding with the intelligence part, because not everybody has resources that can self-educate. But I find that most people with anything, they make a decision on spicy food or on Mexican food or whatever it is. Oh, everything's spicy. Well, go eat it all the time, and you'll see that, Mexican food isn't all spicy,
True.
And so you have to do the research. And so you have to actually put yourself in the situation and learn and step back and say, crap, I do that, or I used to do that, but I consciously don't do it anymore. So I think for the less educated, and I'm not even talking about a formal education, but the less educated in the world,
Human
they may
education.
Human education, and what they have access to of information, they may not, they're not intentionally guilty, but they're still guilty. Let's just say people that are raised in a certain religion, and they only hear about that religion, and then they go out into the world and they go, wait, there's all these other freaking religions. That happened to me too.
Yeah, that happened to me.
And now I'm an atheist. So it's like,
see, so there's that raw conversation, because that happened to me too, right? I grew up Catholic, right? So growing up, I'm Puerto Rican, right? So in Puerto Rico, you're Catholic, Pentecostal, it's all these things, right? So I moved to the South Bronx in New York, and came to Orlando, and up until I was 18, I thought that's all it was. Then I went to the Marine Corps, and next thing you know, I get plucked out of the matrix, And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. They got all these other religions over here in Utah. I didn't know what Mormonism was until I went to the military. I didn't know anything about Islam until the military. I didn't know all these things. And I started opening my eyes to this bigger world. So going back to what you said, that, if you're intelligent enough to ask that question, then maybe then yes. I see a little bit different. If you're intelligent enough to ask that question, and to know and to recognize it after the fact and then do something about it, then you're not,
Yeah.
right? Because some people find out, like, I don't care. Okay, now you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Right? Now, but if you make a mistake, and if it's subconscious, you don't know about it, then then it's not your fault. But if somebody calls you out on it, or if you recognize it later, then you have the responsibility to make that change. Because if you don't make the change after you're told about it, then you are what people say you are for that subconscious act.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. I'm actually reading a book right now about all the religions in the world, and it's taken me forever to get through, because every time page I turn, I go, oh, here's more information that's not based on facts. So, but the reason I'm doing it is because I wanna understand what everybody believes, so that when I'm approached by that, or I'm in that situation talking to somebody, that I could say, okay, I know where their mindset's coming from. I don't agree with it, but I at least know where their mindset's
There you
coming
go.
from. And then I could change my communication style, including never talking to you again.
You really wouldn't want to? You really wouldn't want to?
No, I mean, if they're willing to accept my view, and
Yeah.
I'm willing to accept their view, then that's one thing. But if there's no, and this is on anything, politics, religion, diversity, race, if you're not willing to say, well, you might be right and I might be wrong, or I might be right and you might be wrong,
Yeah.
but we're going to agree right here to respect each other's opinion.
That's what you mean by accept. That's what you mean by accept. Okay, got it. Because after you meant accept your point of view, like, I accept that there is no God, or I accept that there is a God, right? That's not what you mean by that.
No, I accept your point of view, and
acknowledge it. I think
acknowledge it, really,
yeah,
and you don't have to agree with it. And
Mm.
in my personal life, I would have to make a decision if I wanted to be around that person. In my business life, and anybody listening, you're not going to have a choice, right? Unless you quit every job that you have, because people are different than you, and you don't want to be. You want to be around people that are the same.
Resume's 30 pages long.
Yeah, good luck with that. So you have to say, you have to learn, all right, what's different about you, and how can I approach this? I mean, it's the same thing as, like I mentioned a little bit ago about personality styles. It's the same thing. You just got to say, there's something different about you. I need to figure that out, so that I can talk to you in a way that we can get along and get this work done.
And something you said about 5 minutes ago, that before, your mantra used to be no religion talk, no politics talk, nothing like that. And now you change your mind. So that happened to me 5 years ago. Right, 5 years ago is when I quickly learned that why can't we talk about religion, and why can we have these conversations? Oh, because they're uncomfortable. So are we not going to attack it head on, right? This is the conversations we need to have, like right now with my office today. Again, I grew up Catholic, but I'm now, the military has made me agnostic, right? Because I don't know what's this, I don't know what's that. I know there is a higher power, but I work based on evidence and compassion. Right? Not necessarily in that order. My team, who I work with, the exact opposite of my views. They're all Christian, right? So we always have these great conversations and working when people come in and they're like, ooh, HR is talking about religion and politics in the workplace. I can't believe you guys are doing that. I'm like, you see us fighting? No, we're doing it right. We respect each other's points of view. I don't necessarily accept it. They don't necessarily accept mine, but they're open to that conversation. Then I personally believe that's something that's missing today. And that's something that really kicked organizations in the teeth in 2016 with the presidential election. And it's going to happen here in a couple of months. So my take on it is if exactly how you said, though, if you're able to control the temperature in the organization as far as these conversations, if you're able to put strong leaders with a backbone in place and have really good emotional intelligence, then you are able to allow those kinds of conversations to happen, because it creates a culture of trust. It creates a culture where anybody is not fearful of having this conversation back and forth. And it does increase the understanding of communication from both sides. I always ask this to my students. I ask them, and now this is the master's level class, what is communication? And then they're like, oh, professor.
The world's biggest problem.
No, but they all look at me like, really? This is a master's level class, and this is the question you're asking. Okay, so answer. Oh, when somebody says something to somebody else, wrong. Somebody else. All right. They're like, oh, when somebody understands the information, wrong as well. Somebody else. And now they're all confused, right? And they're throwing all these things. At the end of the day, Wendy, to me, communication is when person A communicates something to person B, and person B understood the message that person A says in the manner in which person A intended to communicate it in the first place.
Yeah.
That's communication.
It
right?
Really is. And
Yeah.
and you know, it always goes wrong. It always goes wrong.
No, wait a minute. It goes wrong when when there's a misunderstanding, right? Either somebody doesn't understand, they lost something in translation, right? Because it could be that person A meant to say that in a nice way, but it came across like a complete asshole, right?
Yeah.
So it could be that misunderstanding. But at work right now, that was an issue when everybody was back in the office, right? And
Right.
that's when you get to see the mannerisms and you get that person-to-person contact. That becomes an even bigger issue when we're talking like how you and I right now via Zoom meeting. But
Right.
how does that affect performance? How does that affect that communication? If somebody, so now you got a double whammy. I started this conversation right now talking about how the work environment is different and how expectations need to be adjusted. And now we're going into the leaders don't know how to communicate and give that feedback, that proper feedback to the associates. And now you have a heap of a mess. How do you fix that?
Oh boy, fire the leaders. I'm just kidding. And in some cases that does happen, but it's interesting because I know you keep mentioning, virtual, but there are many people that are still working,
Mhm.
in person.
Essential
However,
workers.
yeah, essential workers. I mean, half of my clients are, and they're also stressed because they're stressed about walking into work every day and potentially coming home with a deadly disease
Mhm.
that they're going to give. Maybe they're going to be fine. It's going to pass through their system. They're going to give it to somebody else. So we all know about that. But even with that, now they're working with masks on, maybe with gloves. They're trying to socially distance so that communication is if you're in a factory, right, or a grocery store, whatever it might be, and your mode of communication is you normally at the beginning of the shift, in the middle of the shift, we all gather around and talk to each other. Well, you don't have that anymore. Well, you shouldn't have it because there should be 6 feet
Yep.
apart, which we know isn't really happening because it's almost impossible in some workplaces. But you also have to, everybody gets a 15-minute break. Oh, but by the way, not everybody can fit into the break room anymore. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
These
exactly what you
these
mean.
real things that are happening. That I have one client that, I was there right before the pandemic, doing a training, and it was right at the beginning, like the beginning of March, mid-March, where we were in Florida, like, we don't really know what this is, but people were starting to clean everything, right?
Mhm.
And I'm sitting in the break room waiting for the next set of people. It was this big break room where we were doing the training. Well, the production workers come in because they have a 10-minute break. Well, they've probably been there since like 5 a.m. So their 10-minute break is actually their lunch because they're starving, or
Yeah.
breakfast really.
Yeah.
And they're coming in, they're all sitting down, eating real quick and going back. And I'm like, okay, so they're essential workers. They're still there. They get a 10-minute break. Not everyone's supposed to be in the restroom at the same time. Not everyone's supposed to be like, what now you have to do? You two are on break. You two are on break.
Yeah.
You two are on break. Well, if you need the whole team for the production line, and now the 10-minute break got extended to 6 10-minute breaks, how can you produce?
You can't. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Unless you become innovative, unless you're
Or
open-minded.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you say we're going to do staggered shifts or
Hmm.
something like that. So exactly, you got to be innovative, and or you also have to be cognizant of the fact that 2020 is going to suck for revenue.
Yeah, I know. 7 months
And
into it.
right. And here's the other thing. I'm kind of going on a sidebar here, but all the essential workplaces cannot find workers. They cannot find employees before this.
Mm.
And so they're having a hard time finding employees now. And so I'm like, do everything you can to not lay anybody off, because if you do, they're going to remember that and they're not coming back to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So suck it up, Buttercup. Dip into your savings if you have some, which you should as a business owner, and pay these people, even though they're not performing at 100%. They're only performing at maybe 70, 80%. Otherwise, we're going to be right back where we were in 2019. When this is all said and done, where you have no workers.
And that is really smart. It really is, right? You pull money out of your pocket right now to keep that talent there with you, because you build loyalty with that. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
People will remember that. That's why business owners really they cannot make these decisions in a vacuum. And that's exactly what's happening, right? And to be honest, I mean, not touting you and me, but that's why you need HR people to step in. I'm like, hold on, I get it. You are trying to focus on the bottom line. Let's focus. Let us HR focus on the people and the talent who help that bottom line,
Right.
right? And let's have these conversations, because that was a great point. When as soon as this hits, they're trying to get ahead of the game. I got to lay people off to stay afloat. You're right. They're going to remember that. Not only are they going to remember that, the federal government is kicking up a little bit extra. And in the state of Florida, if you made less than $19 an hour, you're whole.
Yeah,
and you're
and
not
it's fun.
working.
I have one client that they get it, but they're essential workers, and like, yeah, well, if they want to take unemployment versus working here, then let them, because we won't hire them back. Maybe you should just pay more money. Maybe you should just treat people like human beings.
But you
How
love
about
that
that?
though. Then you love. Oh, then I just wouldn't hire them back. You show them.
You showed them.
They have
Nobody's working.
options, bud.
Yeah, they have options. They have lots of options. I mean,
Ah.
and it's just, it's frustrating. But how I'm talking to you is how I talk to my clients too.
No, wait. That's what I love about you, Wendy, because I'm the same way. How you see me here, how you hear me on HR Talk, and how I present is how I talk to my clients. Is how I talk to everybody, and it really has helped me. Now, here's the thing: I've lost a lot of opportunities because of that. I'm perfectly okay, because those are opportunities I didn't need to have then, if that's the case, right? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm not going to intentionally work with asshole leaders.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. So if you don't like me saying that, then you're probably an asshole leader, and I don't want to work with you anyways, no matter how much money you give me. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I said that in my last webinar. I had a buddy of mine. His name is Jay. He goes by Sweet Baby Jay, but I don't like calling him Sweet Baby, because I don't want to call him that. Just, hey, Jay, we're here, right? We were talking about diversity and the whole Colin Kaepernick thing and the whole police brutality thing. And he and I got some stark divides on that, right? But the whole point of that webinar is like, holy crap. These two folks, veterans, by the way, right? He's African American, and he was a military police officer in the Army, right? So he has a unique perspective of what's happening with police brutality, right? So he and I had these different points of view. We were talking about it live on the air, and oh my God, were we punching each other out? No, he's one of my best friends. Right. That's the environment that needs to be created. That's, as a leader, that's what you have to create. And if you're an asshole because you don't like people talking like that, you're right. Then I don't want to work with you. I'm the same with you. Right. That's not a paycheck that I need. I'll be okay.
Right. And the bottom line is, if people thought, and business owners thought that the lack of good talent was a problem in 2019, just wait for it. It's not gonna, like, just because people lost their jobs, and so for folks that are listening, there is a lot of talent out there right now. If you are considering expanding, and essential workplace or not, if you're considering expanding or trading out staff or whatever, now is the time to do it, because like I mentioned before, employers who treated their employees like crap during COVID, even, oh, I said the word, during the pandemic, uh, you know, those employees are looking for new jobs, even if they haven't been laid off yet.
Mm.
So now is the time, and trust me, they are, because I'm getting the calls every single day. Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? And so now is the time to expand. But at the same time, if you're thinking I'm going to use this opportunity to just get people because they're desperate, you're going to get people because they're desperate, and then they're going to leave.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what?
That's it.
Spot on, Wendy. Spot on. You're right. If you think like people are going to be desperate, I'm like, you want desperate people? You
Right.
want people who can do anything else, but they're going to result to you,
Right.
right? Versus what kind of output do you think you're going to get from that person versus you really selling the idea to them, a real true idea about a career progression in the organization, and they come on board because they're really passionate about your vision. Imagine what kind of performance you get from that person. So,
Right.
so how do you give feedback to that asshole that says, you know what, they'll be desperate, they're going to come crawling back? How do you communicate to them in a way? Because there's two kinds of communication that I think for this situation. Let me let you know about yourself. That's number one. And let me help you understand, and maybe you can shift that mentality to really get the right people in the right seats. How do you approach that?
So my approach is, I try to deal with facts, not feelings.
Mm,
And what I have found, so again, I'm a huge believer in personality styles. And so what I have found is most of the true intentional asshole leaders are the ones that they're not like a people person. You know what I
mm,
mean? They're more of a number person, and I'm a number person, so I'm cool with that. I get it. So what I do is I get the facts. I run reports. I get data.
mm,
Making sure, and I try to get their internal information if they have it, and say, hey, in the past 3 years, here's the turnover, here's the reason, here's what it costs. Because they don't
hey, there you
care.
go.
They don't care. Oh, so what, we lost 20 employees every month. They don't care. Well, let me take that a step further and tell you that costs you $750,000 versus if we were in normal
Whoa.
turnover, it would have cost 100,000.
Yeah.
And that's what you should have in your budget is the 100,000, depending on your size company versus the 750. You could use that 750 put in your pocket, Mr. Owner, and the leader's pocket, or to reinvest in your employees so that you have a stronger bottom line.
Mm,
That's what I get them to listen is the numbers. If they don't have the internal numbers, though, it's hard to get that.
yeah.
Um, so I usually try to find external surveys that are extremely valid, Harvard Business Review,
Yeah.
things like that, not just some, not even my thoughts or yours, because who are we, right? We want somebody that's like super important and be like, here's what they say. And so I talk
I'm
in.
important, Wendy. My
Sure you
mom said
are.
my mom says so.
Sure,
Thanks.
sure, sure. But yeah, that's how I do it is I assess what makes them tick,
Hmm.
and it's usually numbers. But there are some leaders that will makes them tick is engagement and satisfaction and employee feedback, like employee ratings on a public system or something like that.
Yeah, and that does it. Trust me, because I tell my students all the time: the higher up you go in an organization, the more of the language of numbers you have to become
Yep.
comfortable in, because you're right. That's what they listen to. If you tell them, if 85 people left this past year, yeah, that's dead weight. That's going to cost you $800,000 to refill. Holy shit! How do we fix that? How do we fix that?
And is there workers' comp cases involved? Is there unemployment rates? All those things go on for years. Oh, and
Yes,
by the
ma'am.
way, all of them took Cobra.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, so it's like the numbers is what is
Yeah.
usually what matters. So there's this interesting uh, chart. I'll try to find it and repost it on LinkedIn. I have it in one of my trainings on emotional intelligence, but it shows that the further up the scale you go as supervisor, manager, CEO, all the way up to CEO, the lower emotional intelligence you have. And
Oh.
yeah, it's really, really cool. I'll send it to you. It's a chart, and it's one of those
Huh.
things. it basically shows that it is because so supervisors and managers have the most emotional intelligence,
That
and
makes sense.
because they're not dealing with humans as much
Yes, that
anymore. They're
actually
not
makes
dealing
sense.
with the day to day, and they're like, oh, you're just a name on a report. I don't
Yeah.
care about you.
Yeah. So okay. At first, I'm like, that is crappy, but it does make sense because you're right. The higher up you go, you're making more decisions that affect the human beings that are farthest away from you in that career line. Right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, you do work with the people right below you, but the decisions you're making are farther along the line later on. Chances are that executive vice president who you're working with that works for you, that's making $500,000 a year, chances are they're not living paycheck to paycheck. If they are, they're an idiot, and you need to get rid of them because they don't know how to financially plan. If that's the case, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you make $500,000 a year. Why do you have a $2 billion house? That doesn't make sense. I don't know who's got a $2 billion house. I just made that up. But you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to get back to the original question, which was about feedback.
Yes.
And so this is like one of my favorite and painful topics at the same time.
Love misery. Okay, got it.
There's just companies go and they create all these insane, complicated feedback systems. Dude, just talk to your employees. That's it.
Wendy, that's too hard. That's too hard, dude.
You want me to talk
Why?
to somebody?
Why?
This is how I explained it to a new client last night. She wanted this complicated system. I said, listen, you're not going to complicate a system. You have 10 employees. This is what you're going to do. We're going to clean up your job descriptions, and we're going to dump the job descriptions into Excel. And then we're going to clean up your values if you have them. If you don't, we're going to create values. And then we're going to dump that into a second tab of Excel. And then we're going to say, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D, whatever your rating system is on each of those bullet points.
There you go.
There's your performance and behavior feedback system. Do it often. Don't do it once a year. If somebody's coming to their review once a year and they give new information, then you're the problem.
And then you hear, because I can so see this happening, Wendy. Then you hear, oh, we don't do that anymore. They don't do that anymore. No, they don't do that anymore. They don't do. You know what? Redo your whole job description.
Yeah.
Just redo it. Because just 2 weeks ago, I'm talking to a client, right? And we're having a conversation about one of his senior leaders, right? So in that conversation with the senior leader, he was letting me know that this person is not doing this, is not doing that, blah, 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 blah. But he was actually holding that person accountable based on the JD, the job description. Let me see it. So we went line by line, not exactly how you said, but just like, do they do this, and that? 80% was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's the thing.
Dude, how old is this? You're like 15 years? Good Lord, bro.
Yeah, they're talking about some computer system that doesn't even exist anymore. But we just overcomplicate things. And
we do.
We don't need to. Like, the job description is what carries the employee from hiring to firing.
So let's do this, Wendy. So let's say just a little role play here. I used to be the biggest superstar at your organization. You and I have had really good feedback sessions every other week. We'll have coaching. We talk about my numbers. You've noticed that in the past 3 months, my numbers are declining. I used to win the Salesman of the Year award 5 years in a row. Now this is unlike me, right? You virtually pull me aside. What do you say to me?
Hey, what's going on? Is there something I can help you with? I've noticed your numbers are decreasing. Oh, yes, Wendy, by the way, there's this pandemic and I can no longer see people.
All right, I'll give you $2,000 extra. Would that help?
No.
That seems to be the answer to everything, right?
Yeah, right.
More, right?
But it's literally like, what if let's just say it's not during the pandemic, right? And something's going down. And this has been an employee who has been awesome. Throw in some empathy, man. Just throw in some empathy and say, there's something going on. And what people, I noticed your numbers are failing. Now the person's like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Instead of saying, hey, I've noticed there's some change in your work habits or, the numbers, but I'm not really worried about that right now. What's going on? Or is there something I can help you with?
There you go.
You got to be careful. You can't be like, oh, I heard this, because now you're into all kinds of discrimination.
Rumors and everything. And yeah.
What's going on? What can I help you with? Here's our EAP program. Here's this, here's that.
Yeah.
I'm always here to talk. If you're not comfortable talking to me, here's somebody else you can talk to. Blah, 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 blah.
It's got to be genuine, though. Because if you're like this, Wendy, what is going on?
What is going on?
Is everything okay? Check. EAP, push EAP. EAP is available. Check. That just say nothing. It's better if you said nothing at all if you come across disingenuous, right?
Yeah, and if you're not a touchy-feely person, well, you can't touch anybody now, but if you're not that super sympathetic and empathetic person, then just let your employee know that, hey, I'm concerned about you, and I'm going to have you talk to blah, 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 Ricky, Wendy, whoever it is, even if it's an external person, so that they can do it. But you got to do something. And if you're not doing anything, then you shouldn't be in management.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And if you can use your head to be innovative on how you address those issues. One example that it just hit me right now. Another client that I was talking to about 3 weeks ago, they had a similar conversation, but for some reason, this employee was really having a hard time because her Spectrum internet service just kept crashing, right? The issue was that modem that she had that was no longer supported, or the Wi-Fi router was no longer supported by Spectrum. It just stopped working. She had a really high-end one, right? But she was having a hard time making ends meet. So for the regular person, they're like, why are you breaking down over that? But at the end of the day, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. Right. So there was a lot of other things happening. Anyway, long story short, this guy was saying, look, her issue is that her modem kept working. I stopped working. All these things started mounting on her. Her kids couldn't watch Netflix, and, she's a single parent, all these things going on. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just get her like a $200 gift card for Spectrum or another one? Get her, or Amazon, get her a modem, get her a router, because he wanted to give her a raise. And I'm like, that's not right now. That's not going to work. Right. Later on, give that to her. But listen to what she just told you. The crux of her issue right now is the modem, it's the router. She doesn't have the money right now for Spectrum to get it for her. So she's having all these issues. But if you alleviate that for her, not only is she going to be happy, but she's going to like, holy crap, he listened to me.
Right.
That is big. That is really big. And you doing something so personal for her, you'll be surprised what kind of loyalty that's going to create. Next thing you know, another organization will dangle $5,000-$10,000 more over the year. She's going to stick with you because she finds that relationship more valuable.
Absolutely. And here's the thing: it's you said the word listening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's hard to listen when somebody's throwing up words all over.
Yeah.
And so what I tend to do is I just grab a pen and start taking notes. And then that way I could kind of recap the situation to myself, to the individual. But I always make sure that I say, like, especially if it's a person to person or even a Zoom, when I'm taking the notes, I go, hey, I just want to let you know I'm taking notes.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yes.
Just want to let you know I'm taking notes so that I could try to recap this at the end. Okay. Otherwise they think you're just doodling or whatever. And it's like, all right, you're not listening to me. This is the problem. Nobody listens.
Well, that's not how I was looking at it, because whenever I do investigation, well, not necessarily investigation, but whenever somebody comes to me with an issue, I really do want to take notes, but I look at their body language. As soon as I go like this, oh, okay, so what happened? And I see them, I stop, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, look, I'm just taking it because I just want to capture these things. And even if their body language is still uncomfortable, I just stop altogether. I stop the note taking altogether. I'm like, all right, Ricky, turn off your watch, turn off your phone, really pay attention to listen to what they have to say.
Even with me, I wouldn't want, like, you just meeting with your doctor, they start taking notes, you're like, oh no, what did I do wrong?
Especially with an Apple Watch. I don't know if you have one or not, right?
No.
I tell all of my leaders, when you're talking to your employees, take this off. And they're like, why, Ricky? Because if you get an email or a text when you're having that conversation, subconsciously you're like, right? And then,
you're like
right?
You're like the Pavlov dog. Whoop, whoop,
yeah.
whoop.
So you're trying to see, you as the leader are trying to see if your boss is calling you or the email's coming in, but it's subconscious. But the message that sends to the person you're talking to is like, okay, I'm boring the hell out of you.
Yeah, or I'm
Right?
not important. I'm
I'm
not
not
important.
important. So I tell them, take that off, turn off your phone. Jesus Christmas, engage, engage. And by engaging, I don't mean just have diarrhea of the mouth. I'm just saying, listen and be there and listen to what they have to say
Yeah,
and
you
be
don't have to.
empathetic.
Yeah, you don't have to agree with what they say. You just have to put yourself, figuratively in their shoes so that you could try to understand what they're feeling, even though you would never feel that way.
That's
That's
right.
it. That's
That's
it.
right.
And then you recap it and say, I don't know how to solve this, but if it's okay with you, I'm going to talk to so and so and we're going to get back to you tomorrow. You know,
Wendy, why
but
is that so hard for people to understand?
you know,
Why?
I think it's just old school. I mentioned it before.
Mm-hmm.
Old school management is I'm in charge and you'll do what I say.
Yeah.
Well, if guess what, anybody that's listening, that doesn't work anymore.
Does not.
It just does. It's never going to work again.
Uh,
And that's it. I mean, even being a manager now is nothing like it was 5 years ago. It's definitely nothing like it was 20 years ago. If you do not want to deal with human beings, do not be a manager. And it's
boom.
okay.
No.
It's okay to say, no, I want to be a project lead, or I want to do this, or I want to do this. But, being a manager is hard.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. Especially this is where I've seen it as the hardest. When I have issues at home, they have issues at home, and we all bring it to work. And that's
Yeah.
when you get up like, stop.
Yeah,
Let's
stop
leave that at
talking
home.
about
Yeah.
everything. Everybody get back to work. Get back to work. And that's another thing too that I wanted to mention before. We were talking about like politics and religion and things like that. It's okay to have those conversations within constraints, but if you're only always talking about that,
Yep.
your job as a manager is, okay, you got to get back to work,
You're right.
but if you're always saying get back to work and there's no time to have chit chat or build these relationships within the diverse pool, then it's never going to be out there, and then people are always going to think that they're going to be in trouble by talking about
Yeah.
politics, religion, diversity, and they might be, depending how they're talking about it. So you have to say, here's our culture, here's our policies, this is what we will and will not allow, and we need you to be productive. But people cannot be productive with a pandemic or without. They cannot be productive 60 minutes out of the hour. You can't.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, you're 100% right. Yep. Yeah,
You
you're
got
right.
you got to go to the restroom. You got to take a drink of water. You just can't. So your expectations need to be lower. And I don't mean you shouldn't have high expectations, but they need to be realistic, because if you're just beating people to death and saying, I need 10 hours a day out of you, and you don't get any breaks mentally or physically, you're not going to have that employee long.
You're right. And something you just said, and you corrected yourself. You said not lower your expectations, but what I'm saying is don't lower them. Your expectation has to be appropriate to the current environment.
It needs to be realistic.
Realistic. That's what you said. I forgot the word. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know what I said either,
Yeah.
but it does. It needs to be realistic.
Yes,
That's
it does.
it.
Yeah.
That's one of my values for my organization is realistic, honest, reliable. So you have to be realistic. And if you're not,
Would you say realistic, honest, and reliable?
Yep. That's
Why do you
the
sound
HR
like a
language.
newspaper?
It's the truth though, because no one's gonna get unrealistic information from me. If they're like, oh, I want to hire this person at $12 an hour and they need a bachelor's degree, I'm like, well, call somebody else, because I'm not helping you. And I'm like, because you're not going to get anybody. That's
Yeah.
not realistic. And if you do get somebody, they suck at something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And that's why I love working with you, because I share that way of thinking when it comes to consulting. I love being genuine. I love being realistic. And I want to be able to provide that authenticity in what I do, which I see is exactly what you do. That's why I love working with you. And that's why I'm like, we got to get Wendy on again. And here we are. And Wendy, it has been over an hour now. Over
All
an
right.
hour.
Well, we need to wrap up then.
We do need to wrap up because guess what I'm doing today?
Oh,
Guess
I know
guess,
what you're doing. Go
guess what
ahead.
I'm doing now? As soon as I'm done with this, I'm gonna go get changed. I'm gonna get some more coffee, and I'm going to Disney World.
You're insane. You're
Uh,
insane.
I will document everything about it. I have to wear one of these, and it's. I think. Hold on. Watch this. Hey Google, what's the weather for today?
In the Meadow Woods today, it'll be partly cloudy with a forecasted high of 88 and a low of 76.
Oh, that's not that
Currently, it's
bad.
88 degrees.
Actually, yeah,
Okay,
it's-
hey Google, stop. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, that's not bad.
I love how you say thank you.
I mean, I'm being empathetic.
I say it. I can't say her name because she'll come on, but I have the female one. Starts with an A,
Yeah.
and I always say thank you, and I'm like, why do I say thank you? She's not real.
She
not
has
real.
feelings too, Wendy. And
She
now
doesn't.
you just
She's a
told me
spy.
something. Now I got to go back and edit this, and I need to bleep it because anybody that's listening is going to set off their device in their houses. So I'll go back and bleep it later on. I'll do that. All right. So Wendy, tell me three things, just three things that leaders today can do to help create that environment in their virtual work environment or the essential workforce that would help create an environment where people are appreciated and they will go above and beyond to do what's best for the organization.
Well, the first thing I would say is what we just talked about, which is in today's world, you need to be realistic. You have to realistically define what your expectations are for 2020, and I would just say for the rest of 2020. And they're going to have to change from what you thought they were from in January. Mm-hmm. So being realistic, providing feedback to employees, and not waiting for the performance review, not even waiting for the quarterly review if you do that, but you're going to have to talk to every employee or have somebody on your team talk to every employee to see where they're at emotionally, maybe even financially. So feedback is very important so that you're both on the same page. Mm-hmm. Then you'll know if they're one step out the door as well. You should know. The third thing, let's see here. The third thing I would say in today's environment is just about communication. Mm-hmm. Just doing everything you can. If you think that you've communicated enough, you probably haven't.
There you go. There it is. Yeah.
So email's fine. Recorded videos are fine. But the best is two-way communication. It's not always possible, unfortunately, mm-hmm. but maybe you can do a recorded, 15-minute speech, and then you could leave it open for questions and answers on Zoom. It could be a moderated call, so not everybody gets to speak. Somebody moderates it, but it needs to be a lot of communication. Otherwise, employees are going to make an assumption that mm-hmm. the company's doing X, and then the assumption is probably going to be that the company's laying off and they're going to look for a job elsewhere.
So let me second that, right? Because those were almost my three as well. It really is just be genuine with your employees along with empathy. Those two have to run together, right? I don't want you to be genuine with an employee, you're talking down to them, right? But at the same time, you got to do it in a way where it's effective for their environment and yours in the relationship as well. So be genuine with empathy, and man, just be a freaking human being. Right? I know you said early emails, and as far as feedback, I know because I have seen some automatic feedback forms, and that's the feedback they give people, and it populates on Word. That's just ineffective, right? If you really have an employee that's falling behind, right? If you focus on the human aspect of them, the numbers that you're worried about will be taken care of as a byproduct. If you focus on the numbers first, it's going to affect the human aspect, then it's going to come back and make those numbers drop even more. So my feedback for everybody is that focus on the human element first, whatever that is, and don't focus on the numbers first. But if you focus on that human element piece, everything else is going to fall in line. And that's going to be harder for some people and easier for others, but still nonetheless is necessary.
It really is. And for the folks that it's hard for, then move out of the way and let somebody else get
Absolutely.
involved, and that there's no shame to that. We gotta work with what we got. And sometimes it's stepping out of the way and letting somebody else step in.
There you go. And with that said, Wendy will have the last word. We're going to go ahead and just stop this right now. Wendy's information is going to be at the end of the show. If you ever need to get a hold of her, I'm going to have her phone number on there. I'm going to have her social medias out there. Wendy, new book coming out?
No.
No new book coming out? No, why? Oh, wait, that's the name of the book? No. Is that what it is?
I don't have the energy this year to
come
pump out
on.
another book, but I do have my 2 books out. Suck
What
It
are
Up,
they?
Buttercup.
Mhm.
Suck It Up, Buttercup. Be a Leader People Will Follow. Here, actually, I have them right here. And then also the Asshole Whisperer: How to Deal with Crappy Leaders and Jerks at Work.
This is why I love you, dude. I love the I would never have thought a time where we're talking about legitimate books, a legitimate author that has assholes and jerks at work and Suck It Up, Buttercup. I love this new millennia. I really, well, except right now. I'm not liking what's happening right now in 2020.
Yeah.
I love it overall. That's awesome.
I changed the cover of this one, the Asshole Whisperer, just for giggles, to the Mask Hole Whisperer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, folks. So with that said, Wendy, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. You definitely are coming back. I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to send you the meeting invite. That's just going to happen. So
absolutely.
With that said,
safe
folks,
at Disney.
I sure will. Trust me. I'll let you know. Wearing a mask and 100% humidity, you'll find out. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Have a good one and see you next time. Bye.